In the moonlit hills of Northumberland on the night of August 19th, 1388, one of the most extraordinary battles in medieval British history was fought almost entirely in darkness, and it should never have happened at all. The English force was larger, better equipped, and commanded by one of the most celebrated warriors in all of England, a young knight so fierce, so relentless in combat that his own men had given him a nickname that would echo through history: Hotspur. Henry Percy, son of the Earl of Northumberland, was everything a medieval commander was supposed to be: aggressive, experienced, burning with the kind of pride that makes great men do reckless things. His opponent was James, 2nd Earl of Douglas, a Scottish nobleman leading a raiding force deep into English territory, far from home, far from reinforcement, and by every logical measure of medieval warfare, in an extremely dangerous position. Douglas had raided as far south as Durham. He had humiliated English border towns, seized cattle and plunder, and in a moment of theatrical audacity during a skirmish outside Newcastle, had personally captured Hotspur's own battle pennant, the flag bearing the Percy family crest, and taunted him with it, promising to plant it on the walls of his Scottish castle. That taunt was the spark, and Hotspur, a man who had never learned the discipline of patience, rode north into the darkness after him. Stay till the end, because the single decision Hotspur made on that August night cost him not just the battle, but his dignity, his freedom, and very nearly his life. To understand why Otterburn unfolded the way it did, you have to understand the world of the Anglo-Scottish border in the late 14th century, a world of near-constant raiding, blood feuds, retaliatory strikes, and a particular brand of brutal medieval honor culture where a man's reputation was quite literally everything he owned. The border region, known simply as the Marches, was governed by appointed wardens on both sides, responsible for maintaining a fragile, frequently broken peace between England and Scotland. By 1388, relations between the two kingdoms had deteriorated sharply. Scotland, bolstered by its alliance with France, the Auld Alliance, was emboldened and aggressive. A large Scottish raiding force crossed the border in the summer of 1388, splitting into two columns. The western column drove deep into Cumberland. The eastern column, led by the Earl of Douglas, moved through Northumberland, raiding estates, burning villages, and accumulating plunder as it pushed south toward Durham. It was this eastern column, numbering somewhere around 6,000 to 7,000 men, according to contemporary chroniclers, that clashed with Percy forces outside the walls of Newcastle in a minor skirmish. And it was in that skirmish that Douglas seized Hotspur's pennant, issued his theatrical challenge, and then deliberately withdrew his force northward toward Scotland, pausing to besiege the small castle of Otterburn in Northumberland. The reason Douglas stopped at Otterburn remains debated. Some sources suggest he hoped to take the castle before withdrawing, others that he was deliberately baiting Hotspur into following him on unfavorable terms. Whether by design or opportunism, what Douglas had created was a trap, and Hotspur walked into it at full gallop. Hotspur had gathered a force estimated between 8,000 and 9,000 men, significantly outnumbering the Scottish raiders, and driven them north at punishing speed, covering the distance from Newcastle in a single day, arriving at Otterburn in the early evening of August 19th. And here is where the fatal mistake was made. Every military instinct, every textbook of medieval warfare, every piece of strategic common sense available to a commander in 1388 said the same thing. Rest your exhausted troops, scout the Scottish position in daylight, and attack at dawn with full visibility and fresh soldiers. Hotspur did none of this. Whether driven by the fury of the stolen pennant, the intoxication of numerical superiority, or simply the reckless aggression that defined his entire character, Hotspur ordered an immediate attack in fading light, with tired men, against an enemy whose exact position and camp layout he had not properly assessed. His forces struck the Scottish camp, but struck the wrong section of it, hitting the servants' quarters and baggage train instead of the main fighting force. The confusion bought Douglas exactly the time he needed. The Scots formed up rapidly, anchored their position on the broken, wooded terrain surrounding their camp, terrain that stripped away every English numerical advantage, and Douglas himself led a sweeping flanking maneuver through the trees and around the English right side in near total darkness. What followed was not a battle so much as a controlled catastrophe for the English. Fighting in the dark, on unfamiliar ground, unable to maintain formation, unable to coordinate, Hotspur's larger army fractured into isolated pockets of men struggling to even identify friend from enemy. Douglas was killed during the fighting, struck down in the thick of the melee, some accounts saying he died before his own men realized it, but his commanders kept the Scottish force together and pressing forward. By the time the chaos resolved, the English were routed, fleeing south into the Northumberland darkness. Hotspur himself, still fighting furiously somewhere in the blackness, was surrounded, overwhelmed, and forced to yield. He was taken prisoner by Scottish knight, ransomed for the then enormous sum of 3,000 marks, and released, his pride shattered, his penance still in Scottish hands, his reputation as the invincible warrior of the North permanently complicated by the memory of one terrible decision made in the furious heat of a summer evening.